Welcome to another episode of The Second Coming. I'm here with Brother T. I'm your host, Jason Keeton. Brother T, what a week. I was down in South Carolina helping my daughter move during the inauguration. She has a good friend that's in her 20s, a DACA kid, and she's worried about getting deported, even though she's never even been to Mexico. She was born here, and we got neighbors flying Trump flags, and there's just a lot of fear and unknown. And how am I, as a spiritual person, supposed to walk through this? How am I supposed to handle this, Brother T?
Okay, good question. That's a good question. Let's take a good deep breath. Close our eyes for just a minute. Well, that seems like a serious question, Jason. There appears to be a lot of fear, right? We don't, I used to joke with people in the church. They always wanted things to get better, but they didn't want anything to be different. We have to allow ourselves this event that's happening, and it's global, and it's called the Second Coming. And we've been talking about it here. Imagine that. But people go, okay, well, I would love to have heaven on earth. Heaven on earth sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, wow, heaven on earth, right? That would be amazing. No war, no hatred, no fighting, just heaven on earth. All is love, because all is God, and God is love, right? But to get to from where we are, which, just using it as a metaphor, of course, it's very hellish. Sounds like a pretty significant shift of the way things are, right? So if we're going to expect things to change, and I assure you they will, indeed they will, it's already been ordained, and the entire human race, if you will, we have, been asking, consciously and unconsciously, for things to change, because fear now it has overrun the entire planet. And, I get it. The news channel wants to get their ratings, and to get people to watch the news, if you're talking about something that's scary, well, they're gonna tune in. And then the people that are running commercials on the news channel, they're making they're getting their money's worth from their advertisements, because there's a bigger audience that's watching their advertising. I mean, it's all designed by fear. It's all designed by us. It's all designed because the number one problem is that we believe we're separate from each other. It's really that simple, but we believe it. And everything that the world is teaching us promotes it. And using fear to maintain power, control, to get attention. You want more clicks? Talk about fear, right? Something that's fearful. So there is another thing, right? But before we can get to that stage, we have to begin to recognize the reality that we have made that's founded in fear. And how can we recognize it? Well, it demonstrates itself to us. And when all of this fear keeps getting bigger and bigger, it's showing us who we are. Now, I'm talking to you here today as part of our True Thought community, but there's a few steps to get to that. And so this is not going to resonate, I don't believe, with people that haven't at least taken a step or two on a spiritual pathway. Because if you're not on that spiritual pathway, you're pretty much overwhelmed today. It's like drinking from a fire hose. Well, all of this fear-mongering and this otherness and separation. So how can we handle that? I mean, the question you're asking is, how can I get through this? Number
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
go ahead. Did you want to add something?
No, it was just like it's so overwhelming. I mean, that's what everybody's talking about, and they're just so opinionated and into it, and yeah, just help guide me, Brother T.
Well, there's a story in the Bible, and I don't spend a lot of time reading the Bible because I can't handle the not truth that's there. But there's certainly some great things that are in there that are very helpful, and one of those, or many of those, are the stories about Jesus and some of the things he did. So there is a story in there where Jesus fishing boat with his buddies, his disciples, and they're fishing, and he's just hanging out. He's cash, He's not afraid of anything. Now, as Christ in perfect safety, you can release all tension. But I'm not at Christ. I'm not Jesus. I'm not at Christ. I get that. But that's what the second coming is us moving towards that, each of us, all of humanity, moving towards a consciousness of love, which fear cannot exist in that consciousness. But going back to the story, he fell asleep. And they're fishing, right? And he fell asleep. He's relaxing. And a big storm came up. Huge storm. Anyway, they became fearful. They're all, and so they woke him up. He said, Master, they called him Master. He's a master teacher. And he said, Master, the storm, what are we going to do? And he's like, what are you afraid of? Just relax. Peace. And I'm using my language here, Jason, but it's like God's got this. And God's got you. God's not going to, and I ask myself this, I ask myself, do I need another car accident to become enlightened? No, I don't. We talk about, and Paul Selig brought this forth, the guides brought this forth through Paul Selig, but they, eventually, if you're reading through their, 12-book series right now, and a new series is beginning soon, eventually they'll start introducing you to the upper room. And so when I was teaching course classes a couple years ago, I really started bringing that into, starting a meditation at the beginning of my class and saying, we are in the upper room. I am here. I am here. I'm here. So we can say that right now. We can say, I am living and vibrating and being right now in the upper room. And there's no fear here. And the guides call it a tone, the one tone. In the beginning was the Word. And it's that tone, that one tone that is all things are of God, right? But what we're experiencing is what we are creating as our reality because we give fear power and we listen to the thoughts of fear. And we make commitment to the thoughts of fear, and we plan our life around thoughts of fear about a future that doesn't exist, based on a past that no longer exists as well, thinking our way into misery. It's not funny, but it's just silly to when you begin to see it, and I'm only talking to myself, but when you are in a place where love is the energy, and it can be in a church. It certainly is an improvement over what might be in a bar where people are fighting, right? But gathering with family, on the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas and things like that, or whatever your particular choice of being in a group of people that are being loving together. I find it, playing volleyball. I find it playing pickleball, being with people in a loving way. That's our purpose here. You know what? Nature is going to do what it's going to do, and the earth was going to do what the earth's going to do until we get to the point where we wake up and we start being in a new consciousness, being and living and existing and expressing in a new way, in a non-fearful way, and not seeing our brothers and sisters as others or separate from us, but seeing them as ourselves, as an extension of God, just like we are able to do with our precious little, friends, animals, and cats and dogs, and, babies. We can see and recognize innocence. And that's the beginning of how we need to learn, to relearn, to unlearn fear and to relearn love. And I say relearn, actually, it's just realigning with it. And it's a conscious vibration. It's a vibrational field of frequency. So regardless what is happening out there, the only question we have to ask ourselves is what's happening in here? Because if I get into that same energy of what's happening out there, I'm adding to it. I'm literally adding to it. But if I focus on what's happening in here, who am I being? Am I being present to where I am and what I can be to be the expression of love? Now, the ego can become an imposter and try to manage that and control that. But what I'm talking about is moving to the upper room where the ego cannot exist and being in union, being in relationship, being in a conversation, listening. Jesus said, oh, that's nothing more than your right mind. And A Course in Miracles, it's been called your soul. It's been called your true self. And it's all that is necessary is to tune into that news rather than what the world is broadcasting, which is separation and fear.
Thank you, Brother T. That always reminds me is if we can anchor ourselves in a little bit of meditation in the morning and just remind ourselves, even for a moment, that we are all part of Christ. We are all part of God. And all of our brothers and sisters out here are playing in this playground with us, and they're all part of it too. So that helps us get through this a little bit easier, these trying times, and your words of being present and realizing, truly being present and dropping off the past and not projecting the future. That's it's a beautiful thing, Brother T. I love it. I love it. And thank you for the message. And whatever side you're on, if you're present, today can be a great day for you, and you don't have to be fearful of the future. And thank you, Brother T, for your guidance today.
Well, here's an idea. Quit choosing sides. If you're choosing a side, you're already in the small self fearful energy. There is no side because that's an implication that you're separate from somebody. Don't choose a side. Choose God. God's not a side. God is, God is, God is. Right? So if you can begin to let go of an ideal, a political idea of otherness or rightness or wrongness or even justice, right? Your soul knows and can be the only real arbiter of justice. And any act of justice, to stand for integrity as an example, is coming from love, not from judgment. Because your fear of somebody's not doing something right, in other words, you're self-righteous, you're right, they're wrong, right? And so if they're wrong, then they deserve to be corrected, and the best way to correct them is to punish them. I mean, if you really begin to see it for what it is, you can toss it away. You don't need to fix it. If you ignore it, it begins to dissolve as part of your experience. You are managing your experience with God. You are the one who can claim and should claim, behold, I make all things new. I make all things new in my experience by being joined with the voice of God, which is your true self, which is available to you in your heart, in your mind, just being present and not thinking, judging, fixing, controlling.
Love that, Brother T. And let's be present in these times, and let's go without fear and show a heart of love. And it's your choice. It's either heaven on earth or it's hell on earth. And if you're present and you're truly focused and you are walking in God's light, in your light, in the Spirit's light, you can enjoy heaven on earth. Thank you so much, Brother T. Loved your voice. Loved having you here today.
Well, I really enjoyed spending some time with you, Jason. I appreciate your questions, man. It's a good question. I think that's really relevant for people to know that they can step out of that energy, and it's just a choice we get to make. So we take back our power because we are very, very powerful, because we are, as God created us to be, we are love itself. Love itself.
Thank you. And that's it for this week. But Brother T, it's going to be a lot of current events going on, and we're going to need your guidance and our help and just your love. And so I'm Jason. We're here with Brother T, and I'll see you on next week's episode of The Second Coming, No One to Crucify.